To For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shand, and I'm hosting with my dear friend Brianna Mosier.
Hi.
The intention of the show, if you're new, is to bring together men and women to create healthy polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural masculine and feminine energetic core.
Yes.
This is deep work.
Yes, ma'am.
With residual generational impact. It is so powerful. We cannot not do it. So this week we have some really great stuff, but before we dive in, I want you to know my friend Bree. Tell my new friends who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So my work in the world is helping really driven, ambitious women scale their businesses and create healthy relationships and healthy love from empowered masculine men and draw that into their world. And part of my background and training is in pleasure, sex, love, and intimacy as well. So not only do we grow your business to new heights, but your love life, your sex life, all those things, if you can believe it, work together. Your system works as one. So that's my medicine in the world for women who are really seeking that kind of support. And Courtney, tell the people about your magic.
Yes, I am a relationship mentor. I really enjoy working with men and women to clear up patterns that they've noticed for generations, probably, so that they can show up as the most authentic version of themselves, whether it be to dating and relationships or as you're showing up with your health, how you take care of your body. Some of the stories that we inherit are not the most empowering, and we can go in and clean that up on a nervous system level, and I love doing that with people. So I'm helping you set some new boundaries with yourself internally and externally so that you can show up and be supported in the life that feels good for you.
Amazing. Before we dive into our topic, let's remind everyone the goodness that we have available to them. I feel like we have this secret weapon that we want to arm you with that nobody really knows about. And we're doing the best we can to talk about it on the shows and on our social medias. And we just feel like this is a gold mine for you guys.
It really is.
Yeah.
Powerful lessons. We have 3 now, Masterclasses. They actually go really well together.
Yes.
If you wanted to bundle them, you can still use the code PARTNERS and get a discount for that bundle. We have one on navigating emotional triggers.
10 out of 10.
That was really powerful.
Yes.
And if you remember a couple months ago, we did the creating emotional intimacy with your man and what your woman's asking for emotionally and how to provide that. So we've kind of got it from all the angles. The most recent one is perfect for masculine and feminine partners because we all get triggered, and knowing how to navigate them for yourself and how to include your partner, what you need from them, that is a skill set that is next level. If you want an elevated, empowered relationship dynamic, you have to know that skill, and we broke it down step by step.
Truly. So we gave you 4 steps to do inward before you ever open your mouth to your partner, and 4 steps to do with your partner. So, and honestly, I mean, when you bundle them, you're getting 4 hours of trainings for lifetime access. These are essential healthy relationship skills. So if you find yourself getting triggered or not knowing what your woman wants or not feeling connected to him emotionally, Courtney and I spent hours putting this together. To give you kind of the honey of what we have learned in navigating this. And honestly, what we personally do ourselves, really.
Yeah.
So those are available. There's a link in the show notes. And then I know we both have them on our websites as well, so you can check it out there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, these are the skills that we have put to the test, so we know they work.
If you love the podcast, basically we take it one step forward and give you the step-by-step actionable shifts based on what we teach here. So Amazing.
This week, we are going to dive in. We've gotten so much feedback on the TikToks that we have done about the emotional labor, what women wish men knew. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that and just talk about it because it's such a hot button. We want to share what it is, what we mean by it, and what you can do about it.
If you hear that creak in the background, that's just my door opening. We're letting the sunshine in.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Okay, so let's define emotional labor for everybody. How would you concisely She said, I'm trying to pass you that ball, Brie. How would you have done it? And I said, no, Courtney, you take the ball.
Bump that back.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We'll collaborate.
emotional labor is really what it sounds like. It is the unseen, unverbalized effort that goes into creating emotional health in the connection.
Beautifully said. Internally on your own, and partner to partner.
Connections don't just happen, especially healthy ones. They do sometimes just happen for our trauma, but they don't just happen and happen to be healthy. They take some intentional effort and focus, and that is what we're talking about with the labor behind the relationship.
That's such a good point. Because I know for me in the beginning, I grew up in a household where I never saw my parents argue or fight. So I remember in college having my first conflicts with my first ever serious partner and freaking out.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think that it was a thing. I was just like, oh, there's conflict. There's emotional labor to be done. This must be the wrong person. You know, and a lot of my clients deal with that too. It's few and far between that people have healthy conflict and repair work modeled to them in their household. So emotional labor is actually a normal part of every relationship. It's healthy, it's required. It becomes unhealthy when it's skewed to fall on one person more than the other most of the time. That's when resentment starts to build and somebody's kind of carrying the weight of the entire relationship on their back. That's when you'll get somebody who's, full of resentment, and resentment is the first killer of a relationship. Yeah.
A real turnoff there. I was also just thinking this labor, as we're calling it, is the maturation process. Like we all owe this to ourselves first, because this is what it means to mature into our adult capacity. We have to do some work, and we're all at different stages of that. So you're not broken or beyond repair if you find yourself feeling like this is a lot of work for you. It might be, and that's normal. So
especially based on your background. If you've come from trauma, to any kind really, but specifically relationship trauma, there's often a lot of emotional labor to be done in the healing process, even when you're sitting across from a safe and healthy partner, because you're unlearning a lot of coping mechanisms that kept you safe in an unsafe environment.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. You mentioned some of the dynamics. Let's break it down real practical. What does this look like on the ground? How does this show up, and what would let you know that this is happening?
Gosh, well, you always know in your body the health of the relationship, right? If you are feeling resentment, if you are feeling like you have to swallow a lot of things. Typically people know when there's some dysfunction happening. Obviously it's nuanced because it's normal to have to negotiate and co-create a relationship dynamic that works for both of you. So it's not, a sweeping judgment of if you're uncomfortable, then it's skewed. But we're going to give you we're going to paint some pictures for you that you'll be able to check in with yourself around, am I doing this?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, you can't do it every once in a while. I'm sure I fall into these every once in a while. I've pretty much cleaned it up, but we're all human. Anyway, all right, let me get on with it. I'm being long-winded. So parent-child is a dynamic we see all the time. One person is in power and control, and the other person is feeling mothered or parented or fathered. Usually with the clientele that we tend to both attract, typically the mother is feeling like the parent, and the man is going back into like a boyish teenage thing. So she feels like she's nagging him, telling him what to do, clean up your clothes, make sure you get to work on time, that sort of thing. And he feels mothered, and that feels bad. And she does not like to mother at all, make no mistake. And then she feels bad. And so you're kind of dancing with this parent-child dynamic. It's a cycle where nobody knows how to get out of.
Yeah. Ooh. I love that you brought that up, because of my clients, when we really get to the bottom of it, I don't have any of them that have said, I love being in control of everything. Their trauma response, maybe.
Yes.
The part of them that doesn't want to have to express themselves vulnerably or doesn't feel comfortable or confident in that skill set. Sure, this is a skill set that they've mastered, that they can play that card. But when they are coming to us, they're coming because they're like, I don't want to, this is not the dynamic that I want. This is not the fairy tale that I dreamed of playing out. So yeah, I love that. It's not something that is consciously desired by most women. It happens because we find ourselves in these patterns of responding to the situation with what we assume, what we have at our fingertips, what we've seen modeled, what we've seen in the media, what we've seen from our parents' dynamics, or just a visceral response of like,
I often notice nuance too. Maybe you've noticed it sometimes, where it'll be like, what would be healthy and respectful is, let me check in with how my partner might feel about X decision. But parent-child is playing out when it's constantly, let me ask my partner if I can do that, if I'm allowed to see my friends, if I'm free, that sort of thing. And it's like, again, it doesn't have to be this gender, but I'm just saying it as a man will say, I'll ask my wife if I can go see my friends or do these things. Different than mutually respecting and saying, let me check in and make sure we don't have anything going on. It's more like the dynamic has emotionally, either consciously or unconsciously, been set up where there's punishment if he makes a decision on his own and doesn't check in with her. Either she withholds affection, or she gets critical, or she, maybe gets emotionally manipulative, or whatever it might be. But there's some wonkiness happening.
Yeah. And on the masculine side of it, when this is the case, I think a lot of women will shrink into this kind of childlike energy where they need a permission slip to be more something, more themselves. They do need to, like, am I allowed to? I think that's what you're getting at. Like, it's a permission. Am I allowed to? Will I get in trouble if I? That's the dynamic that's going to let you know that you're in this parent-child dynamic, because either one of you, it doesn't really matter which gender, it will play out in both.
Exactly.
It's how much authority do you feel like you have in your own life? When you come to your own life with full authority, you want to ask your partner, hey, did you need anything from me first? Because I've got this thing going on.
Right.
Just wanted to run it by you. Very different than, is it okay if I, do this thing that I really enjoy and would otherwise not have to ask permission for, but since we're in a relationship, I assume that I have to because I'm getting in trouble. That's going to let you know that you're in your child energy.
Yeah, which again is different than saying, hey, I'm going to go hang out with the guys this weekend unless we have something going on, or if you were wanting time. But if you're good, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
It's just a different energy. So parent-child's really common. And in the reverse, I noticed for myself, if you listen to my personal story episode, you'll have heard all about this, but I definitely used to date years ago from a place of wanting to be saved. So I was putting myself in this child dynamic and looking for a partner to save me and take over, because I didn't want to have to. I was very in the wounded feminine. I don't want to have to control or lead my life. I want this even wounded masculine partner to come in and direct everything, because I don't know how to lead myself. I didn't have enough empowered masculine energy. And so from that stance, you could say it's more like narcissist codependent, right? You could make a case for that. Not to that extreme, of course, where that person is controlling the emotional environment and you're just tiptoeing around, making sure you say and do the right thing. Again, it's like you're in a skewed dynamic.
Yeah, I would say that one plays out a lot with my clients. Not that they find themselves in a narcissistically abusive dynamic, but that they haven't quite developed that inner trust of themselves to take on their life.
Yes.
And so they're waiting, they're postponing their happiness, their, creative pursuits, their travel until they're married. They'll do that when they have a financial provider, when they have, after the kids leave, they have these like things that are qualifying them that keep pushing the finish line out for them. And it is very much coming from that wanting to be saved from creating the life that works for them.
Or trying to find a partner in order to be able to create the life that works for them.
Yes. Yeah, like this is first step, and I can't do these other things until this happens. That's always the phrasing that comes up. Yeah.
Yes. So she might be in damsel in distress, looking for someone to save her. And again, you're going to enter a situation where the emotional labor dynamic is pretty skewed. And that doesn't mean that he's doing all the emotional labor, by the way.
I was going to say that.
Usually it's her.
Yeah.
You're the one doing the shape shifting and the molding and the constant overly attuning and trying to figure out how they feel. Like, that's so much emotional labor for one person. You're skewing in a direction that does not support your happiness.
Yeah. Classic over-functioning space.
Or wanting to save somebody else.
Go there. That's where, yep.
So you have I often attract in these clients who want to shift this pattern too, where they are so capable and so driven and so smart that they date men where they go, well, I could fix him, I could change him, I could help him work on that. And again, that's different than mutual growth. I always have to give these caveats because I know when you guys listen, you're thinking about, is this my dynamic? At least that's how I listen to podcasts. So I want to calm your nerves. It's different than growing together, having goals that you know you can support each other in. This is like, I'm going to fix and save him like he's a project. And then I'm willing to do all the emotional labor to teach him how to communicate, how to say what he wants, how to soothe me. Like, it should be mutual. We're looking for a healthy teaching each other how to love each other dynamic. Yeah.
The old project, the fixer-upper, I think, is the term for that. If they're starting way down here in terms of like relationship skills, you're gonna have to do a heavy lift to get them where you are. We want to start at least, I mean, if it's here, that's growable. You can definitely like, okay, this is a skill that you need, great, now we're together. But if they're starting down here and you're up here, it's going to be a huge lift that you need to at least expect. Don't be surprised by, because that's what's being set up.
The question to ask yourself if you find yourself in those dynamics a lot is, what are you getting out of it? Because there is a benefit to everything we choose, even if we're always choosing emotionally unavailable partners. That allows us to be emotionally unavailable. That allows us to blame our partners and never be self-accountable. I'm just making up lots of reasons I've heard, but
to feel self-righteous and like there's a reason that I never get what I want. All of those things can be hidden payoffs for sure.
Or to feel better than. Like to date a partner who is a project means you never have to feel insecure about their success or them outgrowing you. You get to feel needed. So maybe that makes you feel like they're never gonna leave. Is it a fear of abandonment? Or a fear of rejection? Because if you date a partner who you think is a project, then you feel like, well, I'm up here and they're here, and so they can't reject me. I would really feel into like, what am I getting? So even with mothering, you know, if you're a woman who feels like you're mothering your partner, there's something that you're getting out of that your system is trying to protect you or give you a benefit by behaving that way. Often letting go of control feels like death. It can be hard, especially if you've been through trauma and you've been dropped. Control feels like your life raft, but there's a better way forward.
Yes. Let's go there. The better way forward.
Better way forward.
What would be possible in terms of what we're aiming for? We talked about what this is going to look like if it's out of balance. What does more in balance look like when it comes to emotional labor in a relationship?
More in balance, to me, is both people are accountable for their own growth, you know, and you understand that you're both accountable for your own growth, meaning I go into the relationship knowing I'm going to do my own work in therapy and learning how to be the best partner possible. And I also expect my partner to be doing the same, his own introspection and reflection and self-accountability. That's setting up the foundation for the healthiest relationship possible. And then of course there'll be a collaborative process where you are sometimes reparenting each other. I know I don't know why people think that's a bad thing, but it's pretty much the nature of relationship. You are reparenting each other. You are helping each other heal. That's what conscious relationship is about. It's about growth. So it's challenging each other and healing and growing together. And as long as both people are in their own life rafts, as our mentors say, that's a really fun, challenging, beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a supportive process. The parts of you that didn't get the support when you were acting, that way when you were a kid, maybe you didn't get that support in that moment. And as an adult, your partner gets to provide that for you, which is very different than coming in and rescuing you from your own feelings or tiptoeing around you so that you don't have to feel bad or you don't feel uncomfortable. No, there's probably a lot of things that are going to come up in a healthy dynamic that are going to cause you to feel like, I need to check myself here. This is something that, do I want to bring this energy? Is this my most empowered adult self coming online right now? Or can I bring a healthier version of me forward for the sake of the relationship?
Well said. Yeah, I've also found that if you're not doing your own internal healing, it won't even land if the partner says the thing that you want them to say. It really won't. If you've always felt not good enough and your partner says to you, well, I think you're perfect, it's just like, whew.
Yep.
It doesn't have anywhere to go. You can only receive that love if you feel it from yourself first. And no, it's cliche, but it's what I found to be true.
Yeah, I haven't found a way around it.
Me either, and I've tried. I spent years trying to make partners
Same.
say the thing that I wanted them to say so that I could feel better.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter until the fear of someone leaving you, right? So your inner child wants someone to never leave you. But then you get a partner who says, well, I'm never going to leave you. If you've not actually done the work to feel secure on your own and be okay if somebody were to leave and to feel sovereign by yourself in your big, beautiful life, regardless of a partner, even when they say that, your body and your system is not calming down because your system will go, well, what if they do leave someday? What if they change their mind? What if we get in a fight and then they leave? Then what's going to happen? It's not landing anywhere. You do the biggest service to yourself and the relationship to really take care of your own healing and then collaborate on it together.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Courtney's brilliant point. When she wrote this word down, I was like, yes.
Collaborative growth. Collaborative growth in a relationship dynamic that's healthy looks to me like I'm learning and uncovering these parts of myself and bringing forward the healthiest parts to support the relationship, and also bringing forward the weakest parts, the most vulnerable parts, and saying, hey, I need some support here. And I've never asked of anyone, and you're my partner. This is the most vulnerable piece of me, and I trust you with it. Can you do this with me? And then they're like, either yes, hell yeah, or, and usually that's the case, they're like, oh, that's it? Yeah, got you. Or they're going to be like, I can't quite do that, but I can do this. How can we figure out the in-between so that you do feel like you get the support that you need?
Yes.
Those are the options. One of three is often, at least in my experience, it's going to be one of three options. A hell yes, I can't do that, but here's another option. Or, well, maybe just two. Or no. I mean, we're adults. You can always say no. Yeah. And that gives me the information that I need. You staying in integrity is a no. Okay, then is this the partnership that's going to allow me to flourish? Is this is this vulnerable part of me that needs some extra support going to be able to be strengthened in this dynamic? That's the question you want to ask. It's not just, can you tolerate it? Yeah, a muscle can stay atrophied for a long time. It's not about tolerating, it's about strengthening as a whole person to grow into the version that you're supposed to be.
Well said.
And can be.
Yes.
Yeah, I read the other day that I forget the brilliant way it was said, but essentially, in healthy relationships, you are bringing out the best of your partner. That's your goal. Might have been something Leah wrote. I feel like her stuff's been speaking to me again. But
brilliant. Me too.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Genius mentor of ours. Anyways, that is the goal of a healthy relationship partner. You want to support those vulnerable parts of your partner so that they can stop having this, not stop having it like it's a problem, but you see this bigger picture of them, that they can bring this into fruition. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm talking in circles.
No, you made perfect sense. You made perfect sense.
Yeah. So to me, that's collaborative growth. I know there's areas that I am going to need to grow, and in order to do that, I know that I'm going to need some support from my partner. And in order for them to grow into who they are seeing themselves growing into, they're going to need some things from me. And the more that we have that mutual conversation together about what we're working on individually, the stronger we both get together. The third space in between us gets stronger too.
Yes. Yes. And you can't know what you want to ask your partner for support with unless you're doing the inner work on your own.
That's the truth.
Yeah. I said to my partner a few months ago when I was really deep in healing season, that this is just the season I'm in. Like I've reflected. My parts are where they are. I feel how I feel. And right now I know that I need a lot of, at the time it was emotional reassurance. It's like, I just know I need a lot of validation and reassurance for my feelings. I'm trying to heal this part of me that came from the past. And as you know, is that something you're willing to do? And it came from a place of me having to work myself into acceptance. This is not wrong. My needs are not too big. This is part of partnership, is sharing what you need with your person. Arguably, your partner has the biggest impact on your emotions every day, you know? And so he's the person I'm sharing them all with. So I knew that I needed that, and I was able to ask for it, and he gave it, which is amazing. And it's just there's such magical moments in relationship, you know, where you have a corrective experience and you're seen by somebody for your need, and they don't make you wrong. They don't ostracize you. They say, okay, I can do that. I love you. Of course I'm going to do that. Your system heals piece by piece. From the moment you squeak out the sentence and advocate for yourself, you heal your system. And then if they're able to meet you, then it's like, wow, I get to have the relationship that I want. This is possible.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
High five.
Trying to make sure my sweatshirt doesn't pop up. So collaborative growth. I'm so shockingly surprised in my personal life how fulfilling this really is. One of the most fulfilling parts of life, I think, is collaborative growth with a partner.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I find exactly what you were saying. The corrective experience opens up a new circuit in your nervous system, and now you're flowing all that even more energy than you could have. You get to play a bigger game because they contributed to this part of you that had been hiding or vulnerable or a weak muscle. They just supported it enough so that you could build that strength for yourself to show up as the version that you knew you could be and that they saw. We just don't see ourselves very clearly. Typically.
Isn't that the truth? Is there more you want to say on the collaborative growth, please?
No.
Okay. Well, actually, I want to say one.
Well, go for it.
It just really deepens your bond. You know, when you trust somebody and you reveal your heart and they hold it. I mean, that's what creates our second point anyway, deeper intimacy. Deeper intimacy comes from revealing those really vulnerable parts and being seen in them. There's no way around it. You want intimacy, you have to get vulnerable. You have to. And I imagine you would second me on this. It takes usually getting vulnerable with yourself first about what you need and deciding it's okay that you need it energetically, not just thinking, I get to have this because it's what I want. It's like, no, this is just the season that I'm in. There's no way around it. My system's at where it's at. And I hope this person can love me in this and love me the way that I need to be loved, that I want to be loved, you know? And vice versa. When a partner is sharing their vulnerability with you, we've done masterclasses on this. There's a skill set to listening to vulnerability and holding space for them to share their heart, and then seeing if you can show up for them. That's intimacy and connectedness.
Yeah.
That's what relationships hinge on.
Yeah. Wow. Brilliantly said.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the biggest benefits of doing emotional labor when it's done in a healthy way is meeting the need for intimacy. Doing your own emotional labor meets your own intimacy with yourself. And doing the emotional labor allows you to show up for your partner.
Yes. And that is the honey. It really is. Courtney, I think you're the queen of this. Take it away.
Yeah. One of the other things, what's possible, when we were kind of brainstorming what's possible when you do emotional labor well, is developing goals for yourself. It's this ongoing development for yourself that you get to bring to your partner to be a source of accountability in a healthy way, not in this parent-child, therapist-client role, but it really does get to be, hey, I'm working on this particular piece of me coming forward. This is the support that I would need in order for that to be possible for me. Can you do this with me? Yes, no, maybe. That's going to be the responses. When you start creating goals like that for yourself, it's a natural byproduct, at least in my experience, that the relationship, the health of the relationship is going to have some goals. Just like we set goals for ourselves, New Year's resolutions or whatever, your relationships are going to have goals too, and you want to be able to both be contributing in a healthy way because you're both coming from a place of overflow.
Well said.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. And I find this gets a little bit hairy when people are setting goals that they want accountability on, but they don't know how to give or provide. That's the same word. They don't know how to provide or ask for the right type of accountability, and that's where we have to develop that intimacy piece first, because otherwise you're going to very easily turn into the coach, client, therapist, project type capacity, or it's going to be very triggering for your inner child, and you're going to go into parent role just because you don't want to feel that way. When you can see your partner's goals as their goals and get clear on what they need from you as an adult to adult relationship, it gets to be really fun because you don't have to have all the skills that you need to create that outcome. You get to borrow some of mine. I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. Can I contribute that to your growth? Cool. And vice versa.
Definitely. Yeah, you bring up a really great point, which is in all of this, positioning your heart and your mind to be that you believe in the person in front of you. You believe in their power, you believe in their ability to grow, you believe in their ability to accomplish. If you can do that, this actually cleans up really fast.
Yeah.
That might be the medicine for, obviously we work with clients in depth on getting there.
Yeah, easier said than done, but that is the straightest path forward.
That is the straightest path forward, is to go, I trust the person in front of me to lead themselves. And if you don't, because you have a history of the relationship going off the rails and not being able to trust them, yeah, that's where there's a little bit more cleanup needed in the relationship, within yourself and how you think about them. But if you can start to do this early on in the dynamic, or even just today, start playing with it in your relationship, what would it be like? How would I be if I were actually trusting the man in front of me to lead himself in his emotional development, to pursue his own life goals? I don't need to step in. And then the vice versa is trusting myself. I don't need to be saved. This person can support me, but I've got me. That's in my experience, a pretty deep healing process to learn to trust yourself and lead yourself. Yeah. So I work with clients maybe a year on that kind of really healing from the inside out on that.
That's a deep one for sure. Yeah.
But necessary if you're gonna have a healthy relationship. You gotta have it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, amazing. And I think to trust that I would just say, just in having worked with men, that to trust that your partner knows her desires, and when she's sharing them with you, it is a bid for you to lean in. Not necessarily that you have to lift for her, but there's probably things that you can do that will help her flourish when she shares those with you.
Ooh. No, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
She knew when I gave her the eye. She was like,
maybe. Yeah.
Can you give an example of that? A desire that she might bring and how you can scaffold it?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking the alternative. You said the alternative is to trust yourself, but that's from the feminine view. The masculine view is looking for ways to support something bigger than himself. I just firmly believe that an empowered, integrated masculine energy has a lot of bandwidth to support something bigger than himself. That's why we have these, big legacies, institutions, spiritual growth processes. Like, those are things that he is wanting to uplift using his power and his strength. And his woman is no different. So example being, trying to think of one from my own experience, so I don't talk about anyone else's, but now that I'm on the spot, my brain's going blank.
I just thought of an example.
But I've probably told it all to you. Tell me.
Yeah. It's not from your life. I'm just thinking clients I've worked with in sex, love, and intimacy. Sometimes she'll say things like, I want to be more uninhibited in the bedroom. I want to be more in my body. I want to be out of my head.
Yes.
That's her coming with desire. And then he can easily scaffold that by telling her how sexy she looks, how beautiful she is, how turned on by her she is. That is the medicine, but sidebar, that's the medicine for your woman to open her body even more.
Yep.
If you make it about how radiant and sexy and attracted to her you are, you will see a different side of your woman come out.
100%.
I'm just saying.
I mean, you will fan that flame and it will grow exponentially.
Into a freak flag because she's gonna get one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not saying she has to do that. She can have consent and her own boundaries no matter what. But yeah, she's gonna come out of her shell.
Yeah.
So her desire is, I want to be uninhibited. He can scaffold it. And you know your woman. If you're a man listening, you know your woman. And just ask her, if you don't, how can I support you? She might not have the language for it though, and that's where maybe there's some emotional labor for him to attune to her. We would say the opposite. If a man wanted to work on something and he didn't know how he would need support, we would probably tell her some trial and error and see what he responds to. And she's doing that labor for him.
Yep. Yeah. It can look like doing some research. That's something that I have found to be really helpful, is when my partner brings something to me and I go research what that means or vice versa. It takes the load on, and that's not necessarily, that's one where you have to do it from the right energy, or else you're going to fall back into that skewed thing where you don't have to do all of the research and become an expert in their emotional issues. But if you don't know the language, you can also learn the language or learn from them. So
you just keep a pulse on your bandwidth.
Yep.
And be honest with yourself about what you're available for. We were just talking about this in a different context outside of the show, saying some people have more bandwidth to hold space for growth than others do. And some people need them person to meet them right here on every level. I truly don't think any of it is wrong. It's just about being honest with yourself. I can handle growth in XYZ area that maybe Courtney couldn't handle growth in XYZ, and vice versa. Courtney can handle growth in areas that I couldn't handle from a partner. So you just gotta know what works best for you and the kind of dynamic that you want to co-create with that person. That's all that matters at the end of the day. No matter how much advice you listen to on TikTok or podcasts or Instagram, what is true for you and what feels right for you is perfect. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there more?
I feel pretty good about that, actually.
I feel like this is kind of some of your zone of genius, is getting people out of the parent-child dynamic. So if people are wanting to work with you, do a session with you, where can they find information?
Thank you. This is absolutely my bread and butter. I love this particular healing. If this is resonating with you, I would definitely recommend a few things. I have a program called Arise for women. I'm Rooted for men. That's going to clean up some of this relationship dynamic situation. We get deep into, within a month, it's a 1 month kind of container. We get as deep as we can into the energetics that feel comfortable for you so that can shift naturally. And then beyond that, I have a new program, as we were talking about this, that I feel like is going to really hit home with people who are resonating with this content. It's called Expand, and it is the inner growth that has to happen for you to spread your wings and fly. It is a group, it's for women only. We start in June, and it is going to be all about the inner and external boundaries that you need to set so that you can play a bigger game in your own life. And that is going to cut through a lot of the learned helplessness that we have. I'm just going to call it what it is. That feeling of like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. We contract ourselves a lot and play small when we have tons of capability and tons of resources around us. We just need a little shift so that we can see that and show up to play. It becomes more playful and more free and a natural maturing process when we have those things in place. So I'm super excited about that one.
Yay!
Thank you.
Link in the show notes.
Yes, so I'll put the link in the show notes. Otherwise, you can find me on CourtneyShan.com. All of my stuff is there. /courses. You'll find all of the content there too.
So good.
Yeah, thank
Amazing.
you. Thank you. Yeah. And this, I feel like, is something that you help your clients with, obviously, getting into deeper emotional intimacy with their partner,
Certainly.
especially when it comes to in the bedroom. This is her zone of genius.
Thank you.
What would people need from you?
Oh, I mean, I've got all sorts of things. You can always go to buildingbrie.com to look at kind of, I always put the top 2 current offers I have open anytime there you want to jump in. But this feels like soft and secure work to me. It's my feminine energy healing and embodiment program. If you're somebody who is identifying with needing to heal her relationship with herself, trusting yourself, using your voice, sharing your needs in relationship, all of that is, precursor to attracting that really empowered masculine man. And I've boxed it up perfectly in this feminine energy healing program where we talk about all the elements of your empowered feminine, how to graduate from wounded to empowered, how to get out of the masculine paradigm into trusting your partner, trusting men, seeing the best in them, and letting them show the best to you. I mean, it's really brilliant. So that, and then also the pleasure program is available to you as well. If you are wanting to get into the intimacy piece and learn your body and learn how to communicate your needs, what you actually want, how to actually pleasure map your body, how to describe and explore your sexual edges, what feels good to you, what makes sex satisfying. There's a science behind all of this, you guys. Good sex does not just happen. Just like good emotional connection does not often just happen. Sometimes it does, you get lucky. But even then, there's growth, you grow as people and you want to explore and expand. So that's really great, both for women, great programs. Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, we're really happy that you listened. Please share the show if it was helpful. Should have said that sooner. And is that it?
Yeah.
We're complete.
Yeah, we're going to come back next week with some tangible examples of emotional labor. So you'll want to tune back into that. Otherwise, check us out on YouTube and I'll put the rest of the links in the show notes.
See you later.